So just starting on kind of a new session here, I guess a third session. um, and at the moment, still in the darks. Kind of proceeding though through the light side of the hat, which is so I'm just kind of reacting to these grays that I'm seeing. Is kind of trying to gauge how warm or cool they are. Today's very overcast. It's supposed to be a storm, and so usually when it's overcast like this, it seems like the light is warmer. It's definitely not as blue as a nice, beautiful blue sky day. So just proceeding through these grays in the hat, kind of reacting to them, trying not to look like too long. If you stare at it, it's just, your eyes start to play tricks on you. You start to imagine you're seeing all these colors, so you kind of want to look away and then look back at it. And the hat definitely goes from dark to middle to light, but the light is still pretty dark of the hat because locally it's already a darker value. And again, from where I am, there's really hardly any edge there. I mean, it's not a value contrast edge. It's, if anything, it's just a slight. It's just a color difference. That's it. This part and this part are like this, they're the exact same value. In fact, let me try to mix up the background that would kind of go right next to it. The background is a different color in terms of it being more of a sort of olive green, gray, basically. Indian red works well with that sort of a color. Still thinking in terms of broken color and not rendering a thing necessarily. So I have the hat now blocked in basically in kind of a first layer, sort of rough, but still accurate, as accurate as possible as you can do in the first layer, dark, middle, light. And definitely taking a break from it now, but it is a dark element. And then the obvious other dark element is the shirt, which I haven't put in yet. The thing that makes it tricky in a self-portrait is actually every time you move, the shirt moves. It's not like a live model or something where they can stay still the whole 20 minutes, or even using a mannequin or something. So you just have to kind of accept that. It's just part of it. But I'm obviously looking forward. This is the main reason in doing a portrait is I want to paint the face, skin tones and things like that. But I always find it pays off to kind of force yourself to kind of resist that. I mean, get the darks basically, because it'll help, especially in this case, it'll frame it and it'll help that much more to read the colors that are there and not be worried that they're too dark or too light that you've put down. But right now it's a little bit just like work. It's just kind of blocking in, knowing that you can, if you don't quite get them dark enough, the clothing, you can make it darker in the next layer. As Daniel Green said, every layer is just simply a preparation for the next layer. I thought that's some of his best advice, because it kind of takes the pressure off. You're just preparing it for what's going to go over it. So that doesn't mean you do a haphazard job either. You do the best you can, each time, but you don't have all the rest of the information there yet. I haven't even covered the whole canvas yet, so that's just the priority, is to get it covered. so that there is no the toned canvas that was there originally, or the pencil marks that they want to be gone as soon as possible. But back to looking at that color again. It's kind of like a really dark, slightly violet. That's what I'm coming up with. So some Prussian blue. Prussian blue is great for darks. I still use ivory black. The most controversial color, of course, perhaps in the whole history of painting, is ivory black. Undeservedly so. There's this idea that I don't know if I want to get into it now, but there's this idea that the Impressionists didn't use it. But you have artists of the past, like certainly like Velasquez or Rembrandt, and so many others who definitely did use it. I've always felt like if you know what you're doing in terms of color mixing, then it's no harm having ivory black or not having it, because you're after a certain mixture anyway, and you either know whether you've gotten it or you haven't. So you can certainly leave it off, but I like it in terms of like a very dark dulling color, like almost think of it more as taking away chroma, and then it has that secondary use when you use it in the lighter areas as reading as a blue. It tends to be a very, when you talk about ivory black, it's a very bluish black. Right now, my only goal at the moment is to get from here, like go around this way to there, which will still take me through a dark middle light type of situation. I think in this case, there's no real harm in like hitting a note here. I mean, because all of it's very dark. Because locally, I mean, it's a black shirt. But actually, what color is that? Of course, we see when I put this out in front, it gets blocked. All right. I think I'm just gonna have to. It's being blocked by whatever because of the mirror. Just a kind of a grayish color. It's not the same everywhere either. In the same way that are Monet's haystacks one color, or like the shadows in Monet's haystacks one color. There's so many different colors. But as you kind of back away from it, it unifies. If you ever get a chance, there's a great book that, it's by a tonalist, Henry Ward Ranger's talks. It's called Art Talks by Ranger. I think the author's name is Rousey Husted. It's a real find if you can. They have it on archive.org. It's I believe it's 1914. I think Ranger died in 1916. Anyway, he's a tonalist, but he never considered the tonalists and the impressionists to be that different. It's just a question of how far away you stand from the canvas, basically. But he talks about his palette and how he uses he uses the brightest examples of I think he lists ultramarine blue as his sole blue that he uses, and maybe like something like a cad yellow light is his lightest yellow. But he makes one thing in there, one point in there that I think is so valuable, so interesting, and just that he's very much against the idea of having like one flat, unchanging tone anywhere in the painting, but he likens it more to music in terms of chords, that you almost want different notes all in harmony with one another in one area, so that when you're looking at one area, it's up close, it's constantly changing in a very interesting way, but when you back away from it, almost like chords in music, it unifies and harmonizes. So he was very much against that sort of that academic look where it was just like it would be kind of one solid color in an area. So we're finishing up today. Obviously still just getting the shirt. And it's starting to get pretty dark out, actually, even though it's not terribly late in the day. It's really overcast. That's the thing about painting in natural light. It's wonderful if it's like a beautiful, like, blue sky day. I always look forward to that and kind of plan ahead for that, know that you'll kind of go over a lot of the parts eventually when it is like that perfect. You get beautiful lighting, you get beautiful colors that way. But at the moment, my main task is to complete this part of the shirt. Again, it's tricky because it's constantly moving every time I move my arm. And hopefully in the next video, get some skin tones in. But there's just a lot of darks in this particular arrangement of colors, which need to be dealt with first. This gray of the collar where the light hits almost reads as like a light purple. Or almost a light blue-gray, I guess. And as much as possible, still, even with this, when you mix up a color, try not to put it in two different places. At least go back to the original mixture and adjust it in some way as needed. That keeps you always searching and always on your toes, basically. Like right here in the edge of the collar, it's a fairly sharp edge. But in this stage, it might be okay to just kind of paint right through or sort of overlap them, knowing you can create a sharper edge a little bit later. Because the worst thing is having a little tiny sliver of a gap between the two. Those can be really distracting for some reason. And then you lose kind of that interconnectivity that oil paint should have. From one color to one area to the next, one color to the next. It should be a merging of the paint. Like right in this part, for instance, I'd almost be tempted to just go right through and kind of basically lose the edge, lose everything. Just they'll merge together, and then I can go back in and remix up in the dark of the shadow part right in there. And like with this part, with that intense dark there, I really want to make sure it has a lot of color in it. So it'd be smarter, I think, to mix the Prussian blue with the alizarin crimson permanent, rather than just say, oh, I'm going to use ivory black. Because you could quickly create the edge again, and it'll have an overlap to it, rather than trying to come right up next to one another with the two colors to create the edge. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there for today pretty much. Maybe work on it a little bit more, but the next session I'll be in through here.